I'm Rhonda,
I'm Mark.
and we've been hanging around Cape First for about 3 years or more. We feel like this story needs to be told. It's a miracle. It's many miracles.
I was around an individual who had COVID, he didn't know it at the time, and about 4 days later, I started showing symptoms. So I went and got checked. I was positive. So I went to the basement for about 10 days or whatever on August 25th to the emergency room. They ran more tests and blood work and, the whole shebang, and they admitted me that day and moved me to the COVID unit. About 3 or 4 days later, they came in and told me that I needed to be intubated. When you're intubated, you're in bad shape. And I guess I didn't realize I was that bad.
He was transferred to the MICU, the medical ICU, and the doctor called me and said that he had had a cardiac arrest and, stopped breathing. But he said we got him back in a couple minutes. We did chest compressions and epinephrine, and my heart just dropped to my stomach. It just scared me to death. So I dropped what I was doing and ran up to the hospital to make sure he was okay. And after his cardiac arrest, they were just very carefully watching him, monitoring him, and a lot of things can happen after you have that. Your brain can be affected, your kidneys, your liver, so many things. So they were checking everything, and everything was checking out. He kept getting better and better. They were trying to wean him from the vent, and they kept bringing the percentage down of oxygen that he was getting, and everything was looking much better. And I thought, we're doing good. We're on the road to recovery. And so they had told me that since his breathing still wasn't good enough to just take him off the vent, that they were going to have to put a trach in. During the surgery, the doctor accidentally cut his gastric artery, and throughout the day he kept bleeding, and I didn't realize how serious it was. I think I went home because not everything was, I had to leave by 6. So I left, and then I got a call that night from his nurse, and she sounded panicked, and she said, "You need to get people praying right away because he's bleeding out, and this is really serious." Then all of a sudden I saw them taking him out of the ICU, and I said, "What's going on? Where's he going? Where are they taking him?" And she said, "Well, they found the bleed." While we were talking, they found the bleed in the CT area, and they're taking him to surgery. And I just released a big breath of air because I thought, oh, thank God they found it. And then I had my hope back. He could make it. By the time I went home that night, I think it was about midnight, and I had faith and confidence that he was going to be okay. The next 9 days or so after that, they very closely watched him, checking everything. They said after a bleed that extensive, it puts your body into shock, and it can cause all kinds of organ damage. So here we go again with the same thing. So they started checking his brain and his kidneys and his liver and his heart and everything. And they warned me that, he could have brain damage and all kinds of damage, and they couldn't find anything. And I just thought, okay, there's another miracle. He bounced back so quickly from that bleed. It was astonishing. And that had to be God. That had to be. There's no other way that would have happened. But on the 24th, I went in there, and they were so excited. I walked in the MICU, and the nurse said, "He's awake. He even rolled his eyes at me." And I said, "That's Mark."
Yes, the first thing I remember, I don't know if I was in the MICU or I was at Landmark Hospital, but I woke up and I had these tubes coming out of my body, and I wanted to go home, and I started yanking on them and pulled them out. Pulled out the feeding tube and something else, and of course that's in the middle of the night, and they came and said, "You can't do that," and they had to call in a doctor in the middle of the night to come put them back in.
the day they finally said he was going, it was like, okay, we're going now. And so I had to run home and get clothes for him and come back up there, and they took him by ambulance to Landmark. And it was like, wow, he's finally getting out of this intensive care. He's going to get more therapy so he can get stronger. And
when they started doing therapy, the first thing I remember was them trying to walk me with a walker and holding on to me. And that weekend, there was a period where Rhonda wasn't there, and I'm laying there, and I didn't have any hope. I thought, there is no way I'm going to get back to where I was. Mm-hmm. And so I sent her a text. Only her. I need hope. That's all I said. She didn't tell anyone else or forward that or anything. Within 1 or 2 minutes after I hit send, 3 ladies at Landmark, nurses, aides, therapists, I don't know who it was, they came in and said, Mark, you did great today. That was a great first effort on walking down the hall. You're going to have a great recovery. And all these positive things had to come from God. The Holy Spirit had to lay it on those ladies' hearts to come, because that was a critical time for me. I didn't have any hope, and they gave me hope. I knew at that point that God had performed numerous miracles in my life and in my body. More than I think healing from COVID, as bad as I was, 3 types of pneumonia, the cardiac arrest. I found out yesterday that I'd had several small pulmonary embolisms before they put a filter in my interior vena cava. Then the bleed, and coming out of that with no damage at all to organs or my brain or anything. I mean, it was just like, okay, God wouldn't take me this far, and then just give up. And so He encouraged me, God encouraged me, the Holy Spirit was with me, and I just made a decision that I was gonna fight, and I was gonna do every bit of therapy I could. What a surprise when, Rhonda picked me up and drove me home, and there was this huge banner, maybe 20, 30 feet long, "Welcome home, Poppy," which is what my grandkids call me. And all these balloons, and part of the banner had balloons and stuff, and had a cross. And there were, 10 or 12 people standing in the driveway cheering, and, family, neighbors. I mean, it was just awesome. And it was great to be home. It was great to be home with her. And I think one of the reasons is because God knew that Rhonda and I would tell this story. And that's what I did. I told, dozens and dozens of people this story, because I want people to understand. I want people to get hope. We have a great God, a mighty God, a loving God, a merciful and gracious God, and a healing God. And I give Him all the credit, all the praise, all the honor, all the glory, because I did nothing. I'm not the miracle. What God did is the miracle.